We have the only actual acting commissioner at this time that is here tonight, Ryan Stirm. Thank you very much.
So I do this a little bit differently because I like questions. Okay. And I do appreciate Carrie for putting this on tonight. This is a great event. Glad to be able to come out and talk to everybody. So I'll give you a quick background about me, give you a little bit of information on what I've done so far as your current county commissioner, and then I would love to take some questions. And I won't allow Dino to answer some of these questions because he knows the answer to some of the questions I'm going to ask you all, and it ain't fair.
Yeah, be quiet.
Okay. So my name is Ryan Stirm. I lived in Idaho the majority of my life. I was born and raised in a little town called Boise on the other side of the mountain over there. My grandfather, which this doesn't qualify me for anything, but was county commissioner for Washington County for about 40 years. We have lived over there for generations. I joined the Army for about a decade, retired from the Army medically, and then turned around and came back here to Idaho, met my wife, and just like Lindy, she lived in Horseshoe Bend, so that's where I moved to. So I moved from Weiser to Horseshoe Bend to be with my wife, and my wife and her family have been around for ever and ever and ever in the Garden Valley area, in the Horseshoe Bend area. So I have 2 bachelor's degrees, one in business with a concentration in human resources management, and one in information technology with a concentration in IT security. Basically means I know nothing, but I got a lot of money in debt. So I just get to spend all my money every month paying them back instead of buying nice things. And so other than that, we've done a lot of good stuff in the county in the last few years, especially since Steve has come in and, you know, we've got a new commission going. We did replace both of our commissioners 2 years ago, or 2 of our commissioners 2 years ago, which hasn't happened in a long time, but it was a complete changeover of the board. And so in that process, I can actually clear up a lot of your questions that you asked previous candidates. So Highway 17, we'd all love to see it go back to the state. That's where it belongs, that's where it deserves. Where we're at on that currently is that we have found that there is a document at the state level that says that the state signed it over to Boise County in 1964. However, what we are currently fighting the state about is the legality of them signing that document. So we contend as Boise County that the state did not have the legal authority to push that highway onto anybody. That highway was actually a federally controlled highway at the time, and it has a hydroelectric easement attached to it where the federal government can come in at any point in time they want and put in a hydroelectric dam on the river at any point they want, anywhere up and down the river that they choose. That is the current document that they have. With that document, they have an easement, right? So they have the federal government has a legal right to X amount of space on either side of that river. So the state giving us that highway falls within that hydroelectric easement. So the question is that legal? You know, were they legally allowed to give us that highway? And we contend that no, they did not. And so we're pursuing that avenue. The state doesn't like it, ITD doesn't like it, but they can take it back. Because otherwise they want us to do all the rock mitigation all the way to Lowman. And we will never, under any circumstances, come up with the funding to do that. That's just a fact. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's a fact. And so we are fighting that tooth and nail. That's their terms right now. And we even have tried to get them to take Section 1, which is from 17 and 55 all the way to just by the ranger station here outside of town in Garden Valley. That's why we got a new bridge, because that was a requirement before they would take it back. So not only did they give us the highway and sign it over to us, they said, we'll take it back when you do these things. And if you don't do these things, then we won't take it back. Well, they knew that we didn't have the finances to do those things, so it was kind of their way of guaranteeing that they were never going to have to take the highway back. So we were working on that, and that's a work in progress, but, you know, just like everything else at the state level government, they don't want to talk to us. So we're making it very difficult for them, and that's a current process. EMT stuff. So thank you, Marla, for being an EMT. My wife is an EMT as well. I was an EMT for Horseshoe Bend for a long time. I just recently left there, but it is an issue. The unfortunate side of that issue is that the state has legislator mandate that they came down with in the legislature a few years ago, well, last year actually, became effective July 1, that municipalities are not required by law to provide ambulance services to their citizens. So therefore, there is nothing to back you up to force somebody to give you that service. Police services and fire services are state mandated. You have to have them, period. EMS services are considered a non-essential service. Why? Makes no sense to me. Makes no sense to any of you. I can see why you're shaking your heads, right? But that's a fact. That's the way it is. So I've been working with Dorothy Moon and a few other legislators, Megan Blanksma and a few others, to try to get them to put that back on the docket to make it a county mandated and a state mandated service. So that then, because the problem we have right now, for me to be blunt with you, right, is if I as a county commissioner and my fellow county commissioners decided tomorrow that Horseshoe Bend needed an ambulance, whether they liked it or not, right? There's taxpayers paying money, that services needs to be provided. We cannot go in and do anything about it. The city of Horseshoe Bend says, well, that's too bad. We have an ambulance here already and we like it just fine the way it is, so our people, that's on the mayor and the city council, and then, because that's who runs that district, right? So up here in Garden Valley, it's the same thing. You have a district that has a fire district, which encompasses your ambulance service, right? If at some point they decided to discontinue their ambulance service, there's no one that can force them to reinstitute that service. So that's just how it currently runs. That's just currently how it is. So what I'm working on is trying to get the state to take ownership of that. They did that. They took that away from everybody July 1 of last year. So what I'm trying to do is get them to put it back into the state legislature that, hey, it is the county's responsibility to ensure EMS, fire, and police services to all residents within the county borders. Is it going to happen? I don't know. But I'm going to fight for it, and Dorothy likes the idea, so does Megan Blanksma and a few other folks. They like that idea. I would like to keep pushing that idea. I know you guys probably like that idea too. As far as pay goes, we got sidetracked a little bit. I don't know how many folks know, but Sunday we had a little bit of a temperature issue in our server room and all the servers got fried for the county. So we thankfully did not lose our data. The hard drives were good, but the server was bad. We had to overnight a server from eBay to get a new server into the county because Dell was, our previous IT person decided to let our contract with Dell expire for our service warranty, and the server was too old for them to do any service on, so we had to buy a new one. Luckily it was only, $150, so it wasn't that big a deal. We dodged a huge bullet, so we're working on redundancy in that department. But I say that to say we've been working on our Zoom. We've been working on more telecommunications upgrades to the county. We now actually have the capability to Zoom a meeting. If anybody is aware of the infamous cell phone tower hearing, we had that on Zoom. And so we're just working on continuity to be able to do that, because right now the problem we're having is you have two separate services, right? You have a service that records all of us talking, and then you have to figure out how to tie that service into the Zoom program itself, which is a third-party company. And so they don't like people messing with their stuff. It's close. It's like 54, 56, I think is what the road and bridge supervisor is. The problem is you've got Ada County operators who just run equipment that are making that. They're not even, I know people who run equipment down in Ada County that won't leave Ada County Highway District as an equipment operator to take our supervisor job because it's not enough money. And that's, again, the unfortunate side effect. I know a lot of folks don't know this, but our road and bridge department is not paid for by property taxes, okay? So our road and bridge department is paid for by SRS and PIL funds. And we don't have a highway taxing district. Most of us are against the highway taxing district because it's more taxes to us, right? It's more money that we take from everybody else. Some of you are already in 7 different taxing districts, depending on where you live in Garden Valley. You could be up into 7 different taxing districts between the TV and the library and the school and the fire department and everyone else, right? So you want another one? No, nobody really wants another one. The unfortunate side effect of that whole situation is that it may come to that one day, but currently, as it stands, we fund that department primarily through SRS and PILT funds, which means we never know how much money we're going to get. If you have a Republican president, it looks pretty good. If you have a Democratic president, not so pretty. And so that budget fluctuates annually on a regular basis depending on who's in office and who thinks we should get how much money for our state and federal lands. And as we all know, Boise County is primarily state and federal and private property. You know, obviously it's all that way, but state and federal lands is a big portion of us, right? We have the hot springs and everything else, and so that's just the situation we're in. It's trying to find the funding to pay a higher grade of person to take that position. You know, we upped all those jobs. Go ahead, you know.
Bill didn't get to my question. Is there going to be any training for these individuals?
Yes, so CAP is actually one of the programs that we found out that wasn't being taken advantage of through county, was that CAT, Western States CAT, who we buy all of our equipment from on lease, has a training program, a training manager that they will send up here to teach those folks. We recently found that out, so we're in the process of doing that. There's actually 2 of us commissioners. I will say I'm one of them. I won't say who the other one is, that's his business, but I'm one of them. Have volunteered to learn how to run a road grader and to volunteer our time to grade roads during the seasons where it's really busy to try to keep down hours. I know it's not a permanent solution, it's not my job if you want to play that, but I'm willing to help out any way I can. So I've offered whenever the Western State CAC operator comes up here to teach, to be a part of that class, to learn how to run the road grader, and in situations where we are short on manpower, you will see me out running road grader, which is probably every week. At some point, I probably just become my own employee. But it's a process. There's a heavy equipment operation is a fine art, and it takes a long time to learn, and it takes a long process to learn. But I'm willing to help the best I can. I've run skid steers and everything else, so I'll do the best I can, but I won't be as good as most, but I'll be all right. So if the roads get beat up, I truly can be blamed, I guess. If they end up poorly. Is that a good answer for you, Gina?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
It seems like there's a lot of large potholes on the Middle Fork Road. Is there anything in sight to fix these?
So we are working on it. One of the other parts of the complaint process with 17 and Middle Fork and 55 and all of those roads, the major highways and lanes that we have in the county is that we're supposed to get funds from certain entities to help fix those roads. Like with 17, the state's supposed to pay us a certain amount of money every year to help maintain 17. But it's like $25,000. It doesn't even. Right now, it's about $675,000 to pave a mile of road. Just, you know, that's about what a mile of road paving costs. I only know because we just put the bid out to do 2 miles this year. So we've got 2 miles of paving going on, well 3 really, of this year that we paid for. And so yeah.
Alder Creek?
No, not Alder Creek. But I hear you, and it needs to be done. Alder Creek is pretty bad right now with, well, yeah, with Idaho Power and everyone traveling up there.
You've been on South Fork Road?
I have not been on South Fork Road.
It's so bad, we have so much traffic, it's a county road, there's campgrounds down there, and the ATVs, and you cannot see, I cannot see to get out my driveway, there's so much dust.
I have never driven down it actually. I'll have to take a trip.
Brandy?
See it. But yes, to answer
Take her
your
down that road. Whoops, your bus.
yell at her.
I did.
She doesn't tell me sometimes, you know.
Oh yeah, you need to look at it.
I absolutely
You
will.
can't, it's gonna be, you can't see it.
And to answer your question about Middle Fork Road, yes, so there's a couple things going on with Middle Fork Road. It is domed, if you haven't noticed. So we would like to fix that and take that big, it wasn't supposed to be domed that much, is my understanding, the way it was explained to me. I'm not a road guy, I learn as I go. But what I do know is right there at the intersection of Terrace Lakes and Middle Fork Road, that's going to end up being straight here before too long.
When?
Yep, so, yep, it's going to be, well, we got there 2 years ago, do you know, is when we got the road. So we got it pushed through 2 years ago, and then COVID and everything else.
Now we can put this in.
Right, so now we just gotta get it asphalted, you know, we just gotta get it leveled out and asphalted so that it's safe to drive on. But that's, as soon as we get that done, it's gonna be a straight shot straight through there. So you won't have to make the cops call it the DUI checkpoint, but you don't have to make that winter DUI checkpoint, right? So you don't have to make that corner no more, you'll be able to just drive straight over the hill, so. That's part of it, and then a part of that process is working on those. The bad side about road grading, so I've been told, and Dino can correct me if I'm wrong, I'll let him. But we, in the spring when the roads are the worst, there's nothing you can do to fix them. And that's just the bad side of having dirt roads, right? So if you have a dirt road like Alder Creek or Harris Creek Road, in this time of year that we're in, and then again in the fall, when you start getting the weather, there's absolutely nothing you can do. You just get what you get. And the unfortunate side of that is that it destroys cars, it causes wrecks. I mean, there's so many things that happen, right? And so searching for a solution for that is almost impossible, just because you're either changing the road type, which is going to be extremely costly, as we found out, and it isn't getting cheaper because oil's getting more expensive, as we all find out when we drive every day. And so we're working on trying to figure out add material to the road, see if we can come up with some more ideas. Because like Harris Creek Road is all the way down to the bedrock. So there's no more grade. Now when you're grading boulders the size of me. So we got to fix that.
When they grade South Fork, it makes it worse as far as dirt, dust.
Yeah, and the same thing coming into Idaho City on Harris Creek Road. I'm sure Brent can attest to this. Harris Creek Road coming into Idaho City, if you get there around July, you can't breathe half the time if you're in Idaho City.
That's how South Fork is.
Yeah.
All right,
Look
Dino.
at it.
I'm just gonna get this.
I made the mistake of telling him I like having questions. That's the problem.
The one question I got is why did you guys not maintain Grimes Pass anymore? Do you know what I'm talking about? Why did you, I was told by the crew it's been abandoned, basically.
So I do know where you're talking about, but I was not aware that it was abandoned, so I'll bring that up.
I could be wrong. I just know that they're scared to death of it, and
I am too. But we did get I think Miller's got a trash truck stuck there the other day, and then they got a new crane driver from some company came up there and drove off into the ditch up there the other day too. So it's definitely, it's not the safest road in the county. It scares some people. I won't drive up it.
I know a few dump truck drivers and cement truck drivers that'll drive it in their trucks, but it's a scary road.
It definitely has caused a few accidents. Any other questions anyone has, please?
There's a giant pothole right here as you go to the grocery store, to the mudroom, I'm wondering.
Oh, yeah, that's city.
Yeah, city council.
Thank God.
Their office is right there.
Sorry, I used to be on the city council, so I know that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm ready to get some road brakes and just.
This one too, I get beat up all the time for this one right back here,
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, that's private property actually. So that's not even city or,
I was telling my husband, we'll grab some road base and we'll just fill it up at least.
right? Buy some cold patch asphalt and call it a day.
I have one quick question for you myself. I'm allowed. So on the 5517 corner, whatever that is, yes. Has anybody looked at maybe putting up traffic cams that people could log into and see how far the traffic is backed up, and then they could say, oh, maybe I'll wait a couple hours?
That would be a great addition to add to the conversation if I could ever get anyone from ITE to return a phone call to me.
Understand that one?
I promise all of you, and I know promises, worth whatever, but
Where's their office?
we've been trying really hard.
Where's their office?
We can march down there. and-
Where's their office?
Yeah, it's
They have an office in Boise, and where is it, Dave?
State Street.
It's on State Street.
It's right, yeah.
Right past
Right there.
Veterans Memorial Parkway.
Right.
And call them, please do, call them. We have tried, and for those of you that know at Mr. Ward, Alan Ward, if you know him or if you know Roger Jackson, if you ever talk to those folks, they'll tell you the same thing. I've been doing this job for almost 3 years now, well, 3 years almost exactly now. And for 3 years, we've called at least once a month for 3 years. It's on our report tracking every month. They will not send anybody up to talk to us. When they do, they send a gentleman actually called Caleb Lakey. I'm very familiar with the guy. They send him, and he's a secretary, and they send him up with paperwork, and they say, give this to the Boise County Commissioners and tell them that this is that they get. And we call them and call them and call them and harass them, and we don't get answers back. But you know what? This year, I think, because we have an opportunity, we're going to take a chance and get the legislature involved and see if we can't get some legislators to call them. Because we've gotten to a point now where the traffic on 55 and 21 both is unsustainable, period. And they've taken crews off of 55 and 21 numbers-wise. So they used to have they took the supervisor from Highway 21 and took him back to Boise. So those guys that work on Highway 21, the ITD crew on 21, don't have a supervisor that they report to every morning. They just come to their yard in Idaho City and do whatever they do. I don't know what they do, but they do whatever they do. And the guys over here, they work really hard, but they've got all the way, these guys over here cover all the way from just down the road a little ways, all the way up to McCall. And they're understaffed too. So unfortunately, trying to get a person down here to speak to us and say, hey, all they want to do is come down and give us their idea or what they're going to do. When they did their response to the intersection of 55 and 17, they sent a gentleman down and he said, these are our 5 choices here, numbered 1 through 5, in order of what we prefer, and pick one. And we said, no, take them back and come up with something else, because number 1 was a roundabout. Number 2 was a J-turn. And you're asking for someone to die.
I mean, with all the people moving here, someone will get worse.
It is, absolutely. There's really no answer to 55 other than to widen it and add another lane or 2, preferably 2, but you don't have the space.
Emergency vehicles can't even get.
Nope. More than once I've been stuck behind a row of cars because there was a cop car that had stopped cars because of an accident because the road was blocked, and I was in an ambulance and couldn't get up and had to wait my turn. So it's unfortunate.
Maybe there'll be some big lawsuits and then they'll figure out change.
It's sad that it takes it that far for people to make a difference, because we have an opportunity to make a change now.
Yep. Absolutely.
Any other questions?
Anybody else? All right.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all so much for coming. We certainly appreciate it. I would like to let you know that next Thursday night we will have another forum like this. I don't know whether we're serving food or not. We haven't thought about that yet. But we will have several of the other people that are running for local